Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 659. I had the white pieces and started off with knight f3, the Reti opening. And we won't bother looking at the opening book because my opponent immediately played e5. So that just gives up the pawn. It looked like a pre-move to me. And well, let's think about this pre-move e5. You could play that against most openings, like if I had played with the e4 or even with the d4. I think that's a funny kind of gambit where, I don't know, my pawns are doubled, but I am a pawn up. I would probably take the pawn. But anyway, against knight f3, this is not a particularly good pre-move because taking with the knight is fine. So let's see, he tries developing, and I just stay a pawn up through this early part of the game. I continue developing myself. He develops his bishop. I play d4. I was sort of curious to see if he would take there and double my c-pawn. And also I wanted to anchor this knight in the center, force him to chase it away, which he eventually does with d6. Knight drops back. And then he plays bishop g4. So getting pins on both my knights. I play e3 here, and he goes knight e4. So playing aggressively and trying to take advantage of the pin on my knight. On the knight on the queen side here. But, well, this doesn't really lead to anything, and I just stay a pawn up. I do have to give up the bishop pair, I guess, but it's not a big problem. Let's see, he decided to take this knight off. Maybe he was wondering how I would take back, so he played this move to find out. But actually it'd be better for him just to grab the bishop pair and leave this pin in place. Just take the bishop now with the knight and play on from that position. Anyway, so I have two good choices here. I chose take with the pawn. Taking with the queen is also, it's actually the favored choice by the chess engine. There's one point I missed here. If you take with the queen, and now he grabs, you don't have to take the knight back right away, but you can take over here on b7, hitting the loose rook in the corner. So anyway, the line from the engine goes like this. I have to take this bishop because otherwise there's these nasty discovered checks here. And then he plays knight d7, so his rook is defended. So he manages to defend all of his pieces. Now I can grab the knight, but I'm 2 pawns up in this line rather than just 1 pawn up. So that's even better than what I played. I just took with the pawn here and kept my queen ready to take back here, so I leave the option. I have the option of castling later. So he played knight takes d2. Now I take, and then he develops his knight. So I'm just a pawn up. I kick his bishop, and bishop goes back. Let's see, I was thinking about playing b4, but I wasn't sure I wanted to weaken my structure that much, and I think I can unpin this knight eventually by playing queen to d3 at an appropriate time. So let's see, I just developed my bishop. I went bishop to b5. He castled, and I went rook to g1. So taking a look at his king along this open file, taking advantage of the exchange earlier that opened up the g file. Let's see, he goes knight e7, bringing a piece over to the king side. I just dropped my bishop back to d3. He went knight g6. So he's kind of regrouped over here a little bit, and I decide to castle queenside at this point. He goes queen f6, so he's holding on to his kingside pretty securely now, and also taking a look at my f-pawn. So, oh, I paused to defend it at this point. I think eventually I'm forced to move it forward, but I didn't really want to. When these pawns are back like this, they control all these squares, so it's kind of nice to hold on to the pawns just in that formation. Let's see, he goes c6 here, providing an avenue for his bishop to come back in the game and maybe supporting d5. Let's see, I went queen d3, unpinning my knight now, and he went with b5. So I guess that was his idea with that c6 move, really. It was more to play b5. So he's going to try and go for an attack against my king, but I'm not too worried about this. For one thing, I can move the knight with tempo, hitting his queen. My queen is then defending the a-pawn, so I can just ignore this b-pawn coming forward for another move or two. Let's see, kick his queen a little bit, and then I played king b1, getting it off the c file and over here, protecting against a queen invasion. He goes b4 now, and like I said, I can ignore this, and I played knight to g3. There's this interesting computer line here with knight g5. I didn't see too much pointedness in the game because the queen just goes back to f6, but the point is h4, and he can't take it. His knight, if he takes that with the knight, it is mate on the on the h7 square because of my knight here. So the knight here actually allows me to push the h-pawn forward. Let's see, the line continues with h5 and h6. I don't know if this is that interesting, but it leads to a kind of a funny position at the end. And this all seems to be somewhat forced. And you can take off the pawns and triple the pawns in front of his king, and then start winning stuff after this exchange. One more pawn push to kick the bishop back, and then taking here with a tempo on the bishop. So I've got a couple pawns, but actually, you know, you have to be a little careful going into these situations. There's bishops of opposite color, and maybe black has some drawing ideas in this position. You would have to trade off the rooks, of course, and somehow blockade my pawns. But looks like actually the center pawn mass is pretty dangerous. So that's probably a pretty easy win. Anyway, I dropped my knight back to g3, looking to reposition it in some other way. Let's see, he takes here, I take with the queen as I had planned, and then he plays his bishop back to b6. Maybe he's going to try and disrupt the center here with some more pawn pushes. At this point, at this point I play f4. Yeah, I was looking at this fork here. And also, it's opening up a line for my bishop. And it was also getting annoying having to defend that piece on that pawn on f3 all the time, although it wasn't under attack at the moment. Anyway, he blockades immediately with f5, but this opens up this diagonal here, and so that immediately sets off tactical alarms in my head. Tried to think of ways to exploit it, and I came up with c3. But a move I had considered briefly during the game is actually much better. It's better to just play d5 right here, because there's an interesting point here. When he takes, I can just go after that pawn with bishop to f3. So, you know, I'd been fixated on getting the bishop on the diagonal in this way, but there's two ways to get to the same square, and I can also organize the bishop in this fashion, maneuver the bishop like that. And let's see, he can defend the pawn, and I can keep piling up on it. So it looks like I can win a little more material here, although I can't ever, if he defends correctly, I don't ever get to skewer his queen. It's not too far gone to actually defend, but anyway, d5 would be the best move there. I played queen c3, and now he has time to defend. He can play d5 at this point, and everything would be okay. But instead he played c5. And so I can now immediately, well, I have to exchange first because I need to open up this file for the rook, and then have this great square for my bishop, and the rook is protecting against the pawn push. So this is just losing at this point. The chess engine says the best move here is to play king h8, give up the bishop, and then let's see, he has some ideas along the a file. I need to play b3 here to block the coordination of the queen and the rook there. But I'm a piece up, and I still have an extra pawn, I think. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. So a piece and a pawn up, and I'm not really coming under attack. I can defend. So good winning game for white, even in that case. But well, let's see, I took, and he just took back. Oh, he took back with the bishop, but it doesn't matter how he takes back, because this skewer, he is winning, and now when he pushes the pawn, it doesn't help. So eventually he gives up his queen for a piece, and of course I'm just winning here, so let's fast forward here and go to a silly point later in the game. I scoop up some pawns with my extra material, and now I start to coordinate for a kingside attack. And he plays the move knight to f3. And I didn't really spot the idea with this move. I thought he's just ignoring my attack, which he is ignoring my attack. He's ignoring my attack by, well, not ignoring it. He's making a bigger threat, I guess, is what he's doing here. So I should continue with just I can just continue the attack on the G7 square with queen to F7 and also get away from the fork. But in the game I wasn't paying so much attention. I played rook takes G7, and now he gets the fork in, and he gets the queen. So let's count the material. It's actually even in pieces because I had to give up a piece to get the queen, and he had to give up a piece to get my queen. So, but in the meantime, I managed to capture a bunch of pawns. So I am just winning here, and just need to not blunder further, and I'll win with my extra pawns. And also, I still have mating material here, mating force here. So I double on the 7th rank, and he ignores the mate threat and plays A3. Although it took a surprising amount of time for me to find this mate threat idea. But, well, best play for black here is to come over and defend the mate threat. Let's see, I can maneuver my knight around. Let's see, he can grab some pawns. Oh, let's see, A3 was recommended first. And I bring my king over, and then he can grab some material back, but I guess I have enough pawns. I don't need to worry about every single one. Takes, and rook to F8, trying to restrain my pawns, and then C4. I guess this was one of the points of knight E4, is it supports the C pawn coming forward. It looks like I still have a winning game here with the outside pass pawn, even with his best defense. But A3 just ignores my threats along his back rank. And now there's actually a forced mate in 3, which I kind of stumbled into. I was overlooking one point, which is actually really critical here. I was trying to find a way to maneuver the knight to this square, which sets up this mating idea here and here, with the knight and rook. But of course there's many other ways to use your knights and rooks to mate, and this is one of the simpler ones. You check here, king goes here, you check here, king goes here, and now the knight is defending this rook, so rook h8 is mate. I was actually, when calculating in advance, I was thinking, oh, he'd play king takes rook here, and I would play rook takes rook, and this simplification would lead to an easy win for me, which is probably true as well, but the mate is an even simpler win. Okay, well, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you later. Bye.